Hello again. Those of us who live in Britain will know that a number of new restrictions have recently been introduced in a bid to control a variant form of COVID-19 known as Omicron. These measures are designed to prevent hospitals being overwhelmed by new patients suffering from this variant form of COVID-19. Of course, in July, the Prime Minister announced when lifting previous measures that the changes would be irreversible. But of course, 5 months is a long time in politics, and I dare say that he thought after all that time everybody would have forgotten about this promise. Still, it might perhaps be argued if a new and more deadly form of the COVID virus has emerged, one likely to cause many deaths and to result in enormous pressure on hospitals and in particular intensive care units, it would be irresponsible of any leader not to take decisive action. The measures being imposed in some European countries are, after all, even more draconian than those which Boris Johnson has announced. The best way to see what the future holds will of course be to examine the past and extrapolate forward in an attempt to see what might happen if past events are a reliable indicator of the future. That being so, we should perhaps see what both the World Health Organization and Britain's own Scientific Advisory Group on Emergencies have to say about what has happened so far. The World Health Organization said 2 days ago that nobody in the world has died from the Omicron variant. I give a link in the description to this video to what they said a week ago, but as lately as December the 10th, they still did not know of any deaths from Omicron. I also give a link to the British government website, which published the minutes of a meeting which SAGE held 4 days ago on December the 7th. They said that the number of Omicron infections in the UK is now increasing rapidly, with evidence of community transmission, and hospital admissions from Omicron should be expected to follow soon. In other words, nobody in Britain has so far been hospitalised with the Omicron variant. Now, of course, the past is not always a reliable way of predicting the future. That rather goes without saying. But what we do know of the past is that this variant of COVID-19 is different from others which have been seen. One way in which it differs is that it appears to be more infectious. Another is that unlike other variants, nobody in the world has been killed by it, and in Britain nobody has needed hospital treatment as a result of catching it. The problem is that some of the measures being taken to prevent the spread of the virus will themselves have consequences which are dangerous for people. If doctors cancel operations or routine health checks for people over the age of 75, as they have done in Britain, then some of those old people will die of diabetes, strokes and heart problems, which might have been detected early enough to deal with had they been able to visit their doctor. In other words, these actions must inevitably themselves cause some deaths. This leaves us with a very neat ethical conundrum. Although some people in South Africa have been hospitalised due to the Omicron variant, that has not happened in Britain, although there are fears that it will. In the same way, although nobody in the world has yet died from this form of the virus, there is the apprehension that this might happen in the future. How justified are we in taking actions which will certainly cost the lives of some old people if the results may possibly save some other people from catching the Omicron variant and dying of that in the future? How do we make such a decision and balance out the certainty of some deaths against the possibility of other deaths which may not occur, but if they do, might be more numerous than those who die prematurely because their operation's been cancelled or their blood pressure hasn't been checked? It's not often that we encounter in real life the sort of problem which is normally only posed in academic books on philosophy and ethics. I can only say that I'm glad that such a decision is not one for which I am going to be responsible.